Welcome to Nancy's Corner for the month of March, and I have some really good books for you to talk about today. We're going to start off with the adult books this time, and I'm going to start off with The Half-Sister by Sandy Jones. This family, dysfunctional family, the mother, the two daughters, and their husbands and grandchildren meet every Sunday afternoon for lunch. Well, there's a knock on the door one day, and this young lady comes in and she wants to see the father, who has passed away like 6 to 8 months earlier. They tell her he's not here, you can't see him. Well, she keeps insisting and insisting, and they say, "Why do you want to see him so bad?" She goes, "Because I'm his daughter." Well, that, as you can imagine, does not go over very well, and there are DNA tests and all kinds of things like that and proof. And they finally realize, yes, she is Daddy's daughter. Now the question is, who's Mama? Is it his wife? Is it one of his daughters? Is it the woman he had an affair with? Is it another woman he had an affair with? And all of these secrets are coming out, that Daddy was just not this really special man that they thought he was. So anyway, it is very interesting, and it wasn't until the second to last chapter that I figured out what was going on. I think you would really like this book. Now, lately, this takes place in modern times, by the way. The next four are historical fiction, which I have really been getting into lately. And when I saw that we had all of these books, I went, well, that's going to be my book talk for March. The first one is A Question of Betrayal by Anne Perry. And the main character in this book, is a woman named Elaine Standish. She's a young woman, she's a photographer, and she is a new member of MI6. It takes place in the late 1930s, and there is this gentleman who has gone undercover for the last 5 or 6 years. And they find out that he has been compromised. And they want to get the information that he has found out about who's been funneling money to fund Hitler, so for his rise. So they send Elena, because before he left England in disgrace, because they said he was a traitor and that was part of his cover, they were lovers. And they said that she would recognize him better than anybody else. So she goes to Italy, where he's stationed, and she does find him. His handler has been killed, and she has the information that he has, but they decide she's going to try to get him out of the country. And it's very exciting how they have to get out of the country, and the ending is not what I expected. Really intriguing, very exciting. This is the kind you're not going to be able to put down. The next one is The Last Garden in England. It is by Julia Kelly. And a lot of times when you read historical fiction, it goes from one time period to another. Some people like that, some people don't. This one goes through 3 time periods. It starts in 1907, and this landscape architect is making a beautiful garden, very spacious garden, for a very rich family. And it tells you how she makes the garden and what the different rooms are for, and about her life and the people in the house. The next time period is 1944. World War II, they have requisitioned this house in England as a hospital. And it's about those people and how they interact with the garden. The next time period is 2021. It starts in February of 2021, which is when I started reading the book, and I thought that was kind of neat, and goes into the future. So I think it ends in September of this year. But anyway, the people who own the house now are refurbishing the garden, and they hire this new landscape architect to redo the garden. And it's how they interact with each other and how all the families are tied together from the early 1900s to the present day. It's a really nice book. There's no intrigue, there's no mystery, there's nothing really exciting. It's just a really good story. Okay. The next one is The Paris Library. It is by Janet Skesline Charles, and it starts off in 1939. This young woman gets a job at the American Library in Paris. And it's about her and all the friends she makes. She's not a real friendly person, but she ends up making friends. Then the Nazis come in, and they say who can come into the library and what books have to be removed from the shelves. And it's about her and her fellow librarians who sneak books out of the library to bring to their Jewish patrons who can't come in anymore. And that's one part of the story. The other part of the story takes place in 1983. The main character, the librarian, moves to the United States after the war, or towards the end of the war, because she gets married. And now that she's in Montana, she makes friends with a little girl across the street from her, she recognizes herself in this teenage girl, because they have the same type of jealous personalities. And she's teaching her French, and she's teaching her all about her life as a librarian and what happened during the war. And she's really teaching her not to be so jealous, not to say bad things about your friends that could get them in trouble. And that's the main message of the book, more so than the actual history of the Paris Library, is how to treat your friends, how to be a good person. So hopefully the little girl learns her lesson. We're not real sure, but we're going to hope for the best. The last one is The Mystery of Mrs. Christie by Marie Benedict. This is about Agatha Christie. And in December of 1926, she really did disappear for a week. Nobody knew where she was. They found her car with her fur coat and her purse. Nobody, no person. She was just gone. And this is a fictional account of why she left. She was found, and this is true, in a spa using the last name of her husband's mistress. So everybody kind of thinks that was why she left. They ended up getting back together for a little while, and then he did leave her and marry the mistress. But this is a fictional account of why she left. Very, very interesting. Okay, and those are my adult books for you for this month. Now, March is Women's History Month. So I decided to do my children's books on women's history. The first one, which I am absolutely thrilled about, because personally, my own personal opinion, I can't wait to see a female president. So to have a woman vice president is really special. This is Who is Kamala Harris. It's part of the Who Is series. It is written by Kirsten Anderson, and it tells about her life growing up, from her childhood, her education, her personal life, and her political work life. Very interesting, and hopefully a lot of people, young girls especially, will be interested in reading about Kamala Harris. The next one is Alma and How She Got Her Name by Juana Martinez Neal. And this is a little girl whose name is Alma Sofia Esperanza Jose Pura Candela. And she goes, that is way too big a name for a little girl. That's what she tells her daddy. And he says, well, would you like to know why you got her name? How you got that name? And she said, sure. So he tells her which name was for her grandmother, which name was for her great-grandmother, and all the good things that they did. And she can kind of see herself in these relatives and special people. So she realizes that even though her name is long, it's all about her history and all about her family. So she decides she likes her long name. This book I really love. Miss Moore Thought Otherwise. It's written by Jan Pinborough, illustrated by Debbie Atwell, and this is about Anna Carroll Moore, who always loved books. She wanted to be a librarian. She loved going to the library, but in the 1800s, when she was a child, children many times couldn't even go to the library. They couldn't touch the books. They couldn't check them out because the librarians thought, oh, they're children. First of all, they don't really need them, which is wrong. And second, they're so dirty. They're going to mess them up. Well, that's what Lysol wipes are for. But she has decided when she grew up, she became a librarian, and she wanted to make libraries accessible to children. And she did. And when the New York Public Library was built, she was in New York at the time, and she designed the first library room just for children with story time. They could check things out. They had puppet shows. They had children's authors that would come and speak, and it was very popular. So she wasn't the only one that worked for children's libraries, but she did a lot of work. It's about Anne Carroll Moore, and we have this in the library if you want to learn more about her. This is a good one too. Around America to Win the Vote. 2 Suffragists, a Kitten, and 10,000 Miles. This is written by Mara Rockcliffe, illustrated by Hadley Hooper. And this book is about Nell Richardson and Alice Burke, who in April of 1916 got in their little yellow car with a kitten and a typewriter and a sewing machine and lots of paperwork and traveled all around the United States. They went all around the edge of the United States. There's even a map in here to show you their route, talking about getting the votes for women. And some places they were accepted, some places they weren't. Most places they were accepted. Tells about their car trouble, tells about the different speeches that they made. Really fun book. And when they get finished with their ride, the kitten is almost grown up to a full-grown cat. But very fun book to read. The next one is She Persisted in Sports. It's written by Chelsea Clinton, illustrated by Alexandra Boyger. This is part of a series. We have 3 She Persisted books. The other 2 are checked out, so I can't show you those today. But this is about female athletes all through the years up to the gymnast. I'm trying to remember her name. Simone Biles, and the volleyball players, beach volleyball players, all the way back to Margaret Ives Abbott in the 1800s. So it covers a wide range of women athletes and how they became athletes and the struggles they had to go through and everything they have accomplished. We also have just She Persisted, which is about women in the United States, and She Persisted Around the World, which is women who live in other countries who have contributed to the advancement of women. We also have for Women's History Month what I call my little ladies. We've got some bookmarks that talk about women in history all the way up to modern times, because a lot of times when you hear about Women's History Month and women in history, they're all dead. Well, She Persisted, and these bookmarks will give you some information about women that are still alive and still working for women's rights. I hope you have enjoyed all the books that I talked about today. I hope you'll come in and check them out. We have these and a whole lot more on any subject you want. And I will be back next month with some more books. See you then.